Needing to control everything around you isn't a personality trait. It's what a nervous system looks like when it learns that unpredictability is a danger. And the tighter your grip, the more anxious you actually become. Because control doesn't make anxiety go away, control is what anxiety tells you to chase. So it doesn't have to feel the fear underneath it. Think about what happens inside you when something goes off script, plans change last minute, someone does something differently than expected. If situation moves outside what you can see the coming. Does that feel like a mild inconvenience, or does it feel closer to threat? If it's a closer to threat, then the system isn't responding to the situation. It's responding to something much older. Psychologist Steven Maier at the University of Colorado spent years studying something called helplessness. His research found one thing that decides whether stress given anxiety stays manageable. Perceived control, not actual control. But brain doesn't need to actually be in control, it just needs to believe it could be if it had to. And here's what that means for people who need to control everything at some point. The environment was generally unpredictable and they couldn't do anything about it. So the brain made a rule, control everything I possibly can, and I'll never be caught off the guard like that again. That rule saved them once, it's been running ever since. Here's what that rule is actually costing right now. The mental energy spent planning for every outcome that might go wrong. The relationship where the people closest to you can feel the grip, even when they can't explain it. The exhaustion of being the person who has to make sure everything goes right, because some part of you still believes that if it doesn't, something bad happens. And the worst part, the more you control, the more you need to, because control doesn't build confidence, it builds dependency on control. And here's what makes this so exhausting long term. Control doesn't reduce anxiety, it delays it. The moment something slips outside what you can manage, and something always does, the anxiety comes back harder than before. Because you didn't build conflict tolerance, you build avoidance. What's the one thing you tried hardest to control? Work, relationship with other people, outcomes. Drop it below one word. It's why using control to manage anxiety makes anxiety stronger over time. Every time you control situation to avoid the fear, your brain learns one thing. The fear was worth avoiding, which makes the fear bigger, which means you need more control next time, which makes everything outside your control feel more dangerous. Until the circle of what feels safe keeps getting smaller. And the people closest to you start feeling the grip tighten, not because you want to control them, but because unpredictable people feel like the biggest threat of all. Here's the part about needing control that most people never hear. The thing you are trying to control is never actually the thing you are afraid of. You are not afraid of plans changing, you are afraid of what it means when they do. That thing falls apart, that you can't handle it, that the version of you who couldn't handle things back then is still in there somewhere. And controlling your environment is the only way you found to keep that version quiet. Here is the full answer to why it's anxiety and not a personality trait. Anxiety researcher Michelle Craske at UCLA found one consistent pattern in people who need control. Their nervous system have a lower threshold to what registers as threat, not because they are weak, because they were calibrated in an environment where more things were generally threatening. So their brain runs more threat checks per hour than most people scan for what could go wrong. Plans for every outcome, controls every variable it can reach. Not because they are control freak, because their nervous system is doing exactly what it was trained to do. The label pathology is a protection system. What's actually happening is more specific and more fixable than a personality flow ever could be. Think about what that constant threat scanning costs you. The relationship strained by a grip, the other person can feel but can't name. The exhaustion of being responsible for everything because handing it off feels like a danger. And underneath all of it, still anxious. Because control was never the cure, it was always just the closest thing available to feeling safe. Three things that actually start to loosen this. 1. When you feel the grip tighten, pause and ask what you're actually afraid will happen, not what might go wrong, and what does it mean about you if it does. That's the real fear. Name it. 2. Let one small thing go under control this way. Something low stakes, let it play out without stepping in. Your nervous system needs evidence that the world doesn't fall apart when you are not holding it together. 3. When someone does something differently than you would, give it a 30 seconds before you react. Just ask yourself one question. Is this actually dangerous? Or does it just feel that way? You are not controlling because you are difficult. You are controlling because at some point being in control was the only thing that made the uncertainty bearable. Smart then, expensive now. You were never a control freak. You were just someone who learned that when things got unpredictable, nobody was coming to help. If you want more videos that go underneath the pattern to what's actually running it, subscribe. That's all this channel does.